Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Matchbook Betting Exchange Greyhound Racing Podcast. And of course, today we are discussing all matters Boyle Sports Irish Greyhound Derby, and we are down to the last 24. The quarterfinals will take place on Saturday night. As always, I'm joined by the assassin and the master, Dylan Brennan, the Lily White assassin, and PL, the master of ceremony, shall we say, Paul Lawrence. Great to have you, gentlemen. Before we get to you, just want to once again remind those people who are watching at home, we have a wonderful sign-up offer. The bonus code is Insights30, and that is get a £30 free bet if your first £30 bet is a loser, shall we say. So again, welcome offer. Money back is a free bet if your first bet loses up to £30, and that bonus code is Insights30, all capitals. We'll go through that again at the end of the show. Gentlemen, a pleasure to see you. Dylan, PL, here we are on a Wednesday. I can't wait for Saturday. The Derby really has taken to life. PL, last Saturday night was a wonderful night's action. We'll just talk about it generally. The rain, very bad during the day, and there's all sorts of rumours going around. The racing wouldn't take place, whatnot. I didn't realise that they had the track covered, and I actually believe that rather than the track being overly wet, I thought it was a fraction on the dry side, and I haven't heard anyone saying that saying that during the week. I just thought myself that I felt they tried to avoid looking foolish, that if they did water it and all of a sudden the rain came again, they would look really foolish if obviously it got really sludgy on top. But as a result, I think the clocks were about 20 back through the night, and I think that sort of stands up from start to finish. Vincenzo went fastest, but what impressed you?
I think what impressed me was the fact that there were some really good battles. I suppose really I quite like the performance of Crafty Kokoro. I think she's a really good competition dog, and I said, I think you picked her out as one of your anti-post picks, Ian, and I think she's obviously going to be much better over sixpence, but she's showing that she is a good quality 4-bend qualifier as well, if you get what I mean. I mean, she's going to go deeper, and she's going to be trying to back run a better quality of greyhound, but she's just doing phenomenal splits from third bend coming home, and that's what keeps you qualifying. And I think she's something that is an exciting sort of a greyhound, if you like.
Yeah. Dylan, one thing the PL sort of suggested there at the start was that there were some great battles. And I suppose that's just testament to the fact that it's just getting so much more competitive. There's nothing easy anymore at this point.
No, I think you mentioned Crafty Kokoro there. I think what she did the other night was sensational. And like you say, it is getting more competitive, and you're going to have these battles now the whole way in until the final. Thought Romeo Magico, I upgrade his run. I thought he was brilliant. He's really become a man, if you like, this year. He's. I'm not sure if he still has that early that he maybe once had. Now, I'm not saying he's lacking early by any means, but he's just so much stronger, and if there's a gap there, he'll go through it. And Callaway Pro-Am as well, the way he battled off the bitch and Hoffa was sensational, and I'd imagine we'll get plenty more of that this weekend as well, because like you say, it's just getting more competitive.
PL just left you wanting more, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, and Dylan's spot on there with Romeo Magico. He's a greyhound that even when he came to Toaster in the trial stakes, I remember we did the live broadcast when Matchbook sponsored the Maiden Derby, and he was in the middle and he bombed out. I think Dylan again, you're right. He's one of those dogs that if he starts to break, now he's been charging the traps a couple of times in the two early rounds, and you can't do that and then pick up with the early. But he's a dog that if he breaks with momentum, he will show adequate early, as he did in the English Derby final. There wasn't a lot of early pace. Hallow Hammond and Price's Jet and Savannah Bow. There were those sort of dogs that really, there was only probably Magico and Kildare that had that early zip. And he's in a competition in the form of the Irish Derby where there are dogs with better early pace than him. But you're right, it's that 2 to 3. It is to die for, and he's using his noddle as well. He's really racing the bends. He's just. I spoke to Dave Firminger at the Derby lunch in Toaster, and he said the same thing. He's racing the bends, and he's doing that. He's transferred that racing the bends at Toaster to back to Shelbourne again. And you're right. I mentioned that. I think he's a man, and you're spot on with his assessment. And he's all of a sudden he's throwing his hat in there. The way we were all talking about Liam's dog, Ballymac Finn, bit the Young Pretender. He actually showed him how to race. Do you know what I mean?
He sort of said, "Get back in your box there for a minute, and I'll show you how it's done down the back straight."
He's coming, and Graham's getting him to come to the boil at the right time again. He's kept it slowly, and he's progressing throughout the derby. He's a big runner.
Yeah, I think we've seen a bit of a trend that the dogs that ran in England, I think basically the vast majority of them were given, any amount of time off. And were brought back into this derby short on work, and I think we're seeing that the likes of Magico, and it was happening for Balnabula Ed. Sadly, he got knocked out, but Barefoot Supreme, dogs like that, even Price's Jet to a point before he got knocked out, you could see them improving through the competition. So I dare say they were left with room for improvement. Let's get straight into the outright prices, because we did mention Romeo Magico there, and he was really one of the big movers, and for obvious enough reasons, gentlemen. I see now he's 8.2 with ourselves here at Matchbook. That's as good as you're going to get, really, with the fixed odd firms as well. And that's early in the week. That could well settle, closer to 9 perhaps if you're lucky later in the week on the exchange. I think there's still a little bit of meat in the bone there. Now, that said, of all the top 3 or 4 in the betting, I think he's got the toughest draw on Saturday night, given the fact that he's in trap 2, and Finn will be moving off slightly, and the dog on his outside, Tullagraven, will be edging in from trap 3. So I think he'll need to do things right. But we've seen in recent weeks that extra maturity, and as you're saying, the pace he's showing down the back straight is enough to probably pick up most dogs in this derby if they're within a length and a half, 2 lengths of him into the back straight. And that could stand him in good stead, because he's certainly staying on much stronger than he ever has. But Coulivanny Hoffa is the favourite at 6.2. Dylan, he was beaten the other evening, but I don't think he lost much in defeat.
No, you have to give an awful lot of credit to the younger dog, the Callaway Pro. I think he's just a serious greyhound. It was one of them. He did it the week before to Bocco's Buds. There was, and people might have been a little bit disappointed with Bocco's Buds, but I think to do it to Bocco's Buds at 1 week and then go and beat Hoffa the next week just shows how good he is. And like you say, Hoffa just never got a minute's peace with him. We just couldn't get by him. And look, I know people were maybe a bit disappointed with the clock and that, but I just think it was a right good battle. Neither dog got a moment's peace, and to be fair, they battled all the way to the line. And like you say, I don't think he lost anything in defeat at all.
Yeah, I think if either Hoffa or Pro-Am had got loose of the other, they would have gone considerably faster. And I think they were sort of bumping and rubbing shoulders around the bottom 2 bends, because Mary's Wedding, while she's a very talented lady, she shouldn't be closing as quick as she did at that point in the race, which would suggest that there was definitely a bit of racing going on up front. PL, what I liked about Coulivanny Hoffa was the fact that he was still there at the finish. He really did battle out for a dog that we haven't seen an awful lot of him, but we know he has sensational early speed. And sometimes when those dogs are really challenged, you fear that they'll fall away. But he was still there at the line. The same can be said for Callaway Pro-Am, who I thought showed real tenacity. I was using jealousy earlier in the week, but I think that's taken in the wrong connotation in greyhound racing. It's a good thing. I'm saying tenacity in a sense where every time Hoffa did seem to be the one trying to make the moves in the race, Pro-Am reacted to it, and he kept on fighting. And off the last bend, he said, "I'm not going to be beaten here, lads." He stuck his neck out.
Yeah, and it's. I think that's the thing is what we mentioned about young dogs coming forward, and Owen's got the pair of them, both the Callaway dogs running, going the right way, edging, and it's good to see. I think you mentioned about the time. I think times are irrelevant when you've got dogs that you know that Hoffa can do a 29.10.
Yeah,
you just don't know whether the Callaway dog can do that yet. But the dog for dog is the important thing, and the fact. I mean, actually, in behind, I watched that. I must have watched that replay 10 or 12 times, and because there was a bit of a cloud over me when Christie got knocked out, when Ballinable Red got knocked out, but he wasn't that. He wasn't that far behind them, and he just got a little bit of a knock from the 3 dog in the race.
Droopy's Rocker,
yeah. And that the fact that you got to really assess the speed, and I think you're getting now to a stage in the competition, Ian, where getting to that first bend in a posse is important. So we need to be now working out who's got the decent early zip, and we'll come to that later on, because I've got an opinion about a certain dog as well. And I just think with Callaway Pro-Am, he and again, I tip my hat to what Dylan's saying. He's right in that when he battled in with Budsy, and I tried to say to you, I couldn't really work out whether it was that sort of late EP and who had the best early. But the thing is, now we know that this dog can grind it. He can box it with the best, because I think Call of Vanny Hoffer has got the best. I mean, I'm not selling the world anything here, because he had that 1680 split, which might have been a bit freakish, but he can do a 17 dead easily. Yeah, that dog
easily, yeah.
And they were matching each other. So that's now given us a guide on how good these younger dogs. And I'm still trying to fathom out how much early pace has Pro-Am got. But one thing, he's got a fair deal, and he's going to box on well. So that was a really good race. It was a really, really good race.
Well, the two of them did 17-10. I put them both down for a 17-10 because they were virtually inseparable at the split, at the sectional marker down there. And I was rating it 10 slow to the third and 10 slow from the third. And that would suggest that they were both doing 17 seconds. Now, that would suggest that Callaway Pro-Am has all the early speed needed to win a derby. Now, at 11, I think there's a little bit of meat on the bone, because I believe he will win on Saturday night. I think he'll get first run an Explosive Boy, and that could be the key if you're taking that 11. If he goes out and beats that Explosive Boy and does a 29, 30 or 40, all of a sudden, that 11 could quickly crash to a 6 or a 7.
Yeah, I agree with you. And again, we'll look at the quarters, because me being me, you used to are both a lot younger than me, but I always like to glean kind of opinions. I try to phone Pat and ask his opinion as well, because I've got this opinion about track ones at Shelbourne, and you might tell me, because I think sometimes when you can get a dog that can break from the red, it's almost like a length advantage.
Oh, it could be 2 lengths. It's unbelievable.
Well,
yeah.
And this is what I'm thinking about Explosive Boy, because if Dylan remembers as well, I said I wasn't too sure, Dylan, whether Explosive Boy was a natural track one specialist. And actually, he's put in 2 superb performances from track one in the first 2 rounds. And he actually got beat because he was drawn outside Pat's Tullig Raven in the last round, the 3rd round. And again, I noticed him then. He shuffled off at the second bend. It took his time then to straighten up. But once dogs, I think, get that advantage of the rails and they scoot up the rails down the far side, a la Romeo Magico, it's worth, as you say, it's probably worth 2 lengths. You're probably right.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, in the overall sort of context of the race, it could be. Certainly, if you're getting a length on your rival, that's worth nearly 2 lengths to you in the race itself. Dylan, of the rest of them in the top 7 or 8 in the betting there, we've mentioned Hoffa, Magico, Ballymacfin, Callaway Pro-Am. Then we have Born Warrior. He's currently available at 11. I think that'll be bigger on the day. Vincenzo 13. I think that might be a fraction bigger as well. Tullig Ravens at 13. Funny, I think he's really up against it now on Saturday night. I'd be waiting, if I was backing him, until after Saturday night and hope that he doesn't just go crash and do a 29-20 and all of a sudden he's available at 6. Explosive Boy, well housed. PL has mentioned it there. He's looks a likely qualifier. Bocco's Budsit, I think, is a likely qualifier from the outside in the hot heat, where Romeo Magico and Ballymacfin are on the inside, as is Tullig Raven. A Barefoot Supremo at 17, who ran very well last week in Crafty Kokoro. And of course, it goes on. Then we've got some bigger price greyhounds that I think that can qualify. But is there anything there where you go, that's a little bit in the big side?
Yeah, I was looking at it here. I was looking at it earlier, and I was kind of. I started with 5, and if you'd told me at the beginning of the competition that I'd still have 4 left, I would have been over the moon. So in terms of getting involved,
that's the difference between you and me. I fully expect. I'm only joking. I agree with you altogether. Yeah, especially in such a competitive derby.
Yeah, it's and the funny thing is, the one that went out was Mustang Jet, and to be honest with you, I was never, from the first round on, I was never really happy with him, and I expected him to go out the weekend. So it's kind of playing out nicely from my perspective. The one I would fear the most, we've mentioned him, is Magico. I just think he's that. If you're in with him, no matter where he's drawn, you're going to fear him, because he can come away. He hasn't done it yet, and he's still there, and we're still talking about him every week as a big eye catcher. And this, that, and the other. And he'd be the one I'd fear the most. And if I was to get involved again, he'd probably be the one, because I'd be quite happy with what I have at the minute. But I really do fear Romeo Magico.
Yeah, and understandably so. I'm just looking down to some of the remainders there. Like, dogs like, dogs that are certainly running very well include the likes of Anna Bailey, who's, available at sort of 14.50 to 1 in places, and obviously will be that with the exchange come the weekend when the market is settled. Hoodoo Brown, big finisher. Khalil Phelps, big finisher. And then you have the one or two early paced outsiders, the likes of Bullet from a Gun, or even a Crypto Punk running very well. But I find with the early pacers, they need that little bit more luck, PL, at this stage, because it's one thing the strong stayers coming between beaten runners or beaten early pacers or find a bit of traffic, whereas the early pacers need to do everything right to get on the bunny, especially in heats where, if you look at the 4 favourites in the 4 heats, all of them can absolutely fly to a corner, be it Born Warrior, Ballymac Finn, I assume would probably start favourite, although Bocco's Bud sits in the race, and Romeo Magico, Callaway Pro-Am, each and every one of them can really fly to a corner, and the early paced outsiders, that's where they're going to struggle.
Exactly, and again, we're looking at makeups of race and the style of running. If you've got early paced dogs that need to lead to put in their best performance, then if they don't, they could be in a world of pain. And it's a matter of I get the impression that Ian Fortune is of the opinion that Hoffer is a little bit vulnerable coming off the last. Shall I say it? Not the strongest of stayers. Am I right in saying that?
I'd be more worried about Born Warrior off the last.
Yeah, no,
because he will swing wide, whereas Hoffer will keep a straight line.
I think he stays all right. See, that's what I'm saying. I think
he stays all right too. But I do believe he's a better greyhound from 6. And if he got to the final and he had a Born Warrior or a Callaway Pro-Am or a Bocco's Budset on his inside, and he's out in 6, I'm not too worried. Yeah. He's in 5 and he's early pace on both sides, I'm more concerned.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's interesting, and you're right. He didn't get his, his kind of second round surge to the bend, because as I say, I'm kind of trying to mention that to about certain dogs. When they get the better break, they show even better early.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? So, although I think with the likes of a dog like Kulavani Hoffer and Born Warrior, they can half miss it a beat but still show early and get to the front, and then it's really a matter of how they can shake off the dogs that they're up against. And of course, when you're up against the 4th round, now you're up against much better dogs, and dogs that have got 2 to 3, and I do think Hoffer is the real deal. I must admit, I do think he is, and I think he had to battle, and it was just an eye opener. I think that now Callaway Pro-Am look to be as good as him, and really, one of them 6.2 and the other one's 11 dead. So I think probably your value would probably lie with Owen's dog.
Yeah, and Owen's dog's going to be on his inside every night. Doesn't matter what happens there. That's the way the seedings are. Just remind us there, gentlemen, what were the few that you've nominated at the start that are still there, shall we say, PL?
I've got Hoffer, Born Warrior, and Barefoot Supremo.
That's a good trio. It's a really strong trio. Barefoot Supremo, I don't listen. I prefer him not to be in trap 1, but in the context of the race, it could actually work out in his favour, given the fact that he could well hold 2 and 3 into the bend, and then all of a sudden get in behind Born Warrior. And I think there could only be one winner of that battle. Certainly off the last bend, if Born Warrior continues to go out to the countryside. Dylan, where are you at? What do you have remaining?
Hoffa, Vincenzo, Supremo, and Callaway Pro-Am.
You're just showing off at this stage. That's a nice quartet.
What price was Pro-Am at the start, Dylan?
66.
Oh,
wow. Okay.
Man, well done.
That's a nice position to be if you're in there. I threw in I have Barefoot Supremo, Crafty Kokoro, and Hoffa, who got a good mention. I didn't actually tip it up as such, but as I said, I have been tipping it up for about a month and a half at this stage, so I can't really say that I didn't tip it up, and I am on at biggish prices. So long live Hoffa. I have added to my. We're not going to use that dreaded word, PL. You know the word we're talking about. Begins with a port and ends in oleo. I have added the likes of Vincenzo and Bocco's Budset at various points over the last 3 weeks. So I'm okay with that. And I got a text yesterday from Peter Sutcliffe, one of the owners, obviously the husband of Cheryl Sutcliffe, who's down to own Vincenzo, and he said, "Get on Vincenzo." So I think they believe that we're going to see the very best of him in the coming weeks. So that's worth keeping in mind. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll go on to the quarterfinals now, because in discussing the quarterfinals, we nearly get to give a line or two on most of the Greyhounds. And I suppose that's what people want at this stage. Just before we leave the outright markets, Gent, is there one dog in particular that you'd like to add to your list, or are you happy enough with where you are?
I'm happy. If anything, I'm not just saying.
Of course, you're happy. You've half the field running for you.
I'm glad what you said there about Peter Sutcliffe, because I'm still mad about Vincenzo, even though I know there's people kind of, I wouldn't say crabbing him, but just maybe not, maybe he hasn't done what maybe that they expect him to do.
We want him just to do a little bit more to halfway, is what we're saying.
Yeah, and again, what he did the other night was, we'll get into it, maybe a slight worry to deter Ben, but I'm as happy with him now as I was at the start. And if I was going in again, I'd nearly be going back in on him rather than adding.
All I can hear is charge. We'll start on the quarterfinals. The opening quarterfinal: Ballymacfin, Romeo Magico, Tulligraven, Skywalker Barry, Gord Kelly Nestor, and Bocco's Budset. I don't want to do too much talking for you lads, but I'm putting a pen through Skywalker Barry and Gord Kelly Nestor. While both have been wonderful Greyhounds, they are now, well, Skywalker Barry is very nearly a veteran. Gord Kelly Nestor is a veteran. And while they continue to run well, I think the Gord Kelly Nestor run behind Balnabula Ed was more of a flash than the norm these days. So we can concentrate in the big four. Ballymacfin is in 1, Romeo Magico 2, Tulligraven 3, and Bocco's Budset 6. I've gone with Bocco's Budset on top of the card. That's what I'll be tipping at the weekend, purely because I think Finn will edge off and I think Tulligraven will edge in. Now, Romeo Magico is a big 81-pounder, and he's well able to handle himself these days, and he may well get a run at them off the second bend, and that could be the key to his race. But I do think Ballymacfin will start favourite from the inside. I think if he'd reversed the boxes last week, it would have been a lot closer, 2.5 lengths, and it might well have gone to Ballymacfin, because he would have taken the corner pretty comfortably. But he wasn't. He was in 2 and Romeo Magico was in 1. But I do think there is a chance of a battle on the inside. I'm going to take a chance on Bocco's Budset. Gets loose on the outside. His only defeat in the Derby came at the hands of Callaway Pro-Am. And that form was certainly... it was certainly franked last week. I think it didn't look as bad after racing as it did prior to racing. So I'm just going to go with Bocco's Budset, because I thought in and around the 3-1 mark, I thought he'd represent a bit of value. PL, what's your choice?
My choice was, I don't really know what my choice is, I've got to tell you, and you've assessed the race pretty well, and I think I priced this up and I kept changing my prices, I've got to tell you the truth, because I went back and watched when you're right, when Ballymacfin was in 2 last week, Ian, Magico, and that's what I mean about, we're talking about track 1s with Magico was in red. He kind of surged up late and he just caught Finn's hindquarters. And he just
kept nudging him, as if to say, just keep that gap for me, will you? Keep that gap. And when it opened at the second, good luck. Off he went.
And I must admit, I've got Ballymacfin because he ran in the previous round from red. I've got him sort of lane 2 1/4, but I actually would have Magico 2 1/4, 2 1/2 himself. So I don't. Although I think one thing could come across him a little bit initially, because of the red. For some reason, I don't know why, I think Finn's going to start better than he did out of 2. I don't know why, but it's just what I've seen with my own 2 eyes from those traps. And yeah, you're right. Tulligraven I've got him edging in. Although I think he'll be comfortable lane 2, I don't think he'll dive straight the way in. So really, it's what Magico does at lid rise. Because I've got a theory that Tulligraven, if they get their breaks from last week, I think Tulligraven might be able to squeeze past Ballymacfin and Romeo Magico. But you're right. Okay. All you know is Bocco's Budset will probably do his running. He'll probably move into lane 5. But I guess as well, Ian, Gort Kelly Nestor might give Budset something to think about. Although you're right, I don't give him much of a chance, the pair of them, Barry or Nestor. But Nestor could have an outcome come to Budset's chances. It's a really, really tough race. It's a race that in the end, I thought, I don't really want to have a bet in this race.
Got that sense from you. It's the type of race where if floods of money came for one or two runners and one of the four went a big price, you might have a nibble, but only at that sort of situation. I'm like that. It's not a punting race for me, but I have to tip up something, given the fact that I had the tips on top of the card, and I will be doing a preview. I'm going with 6 Bockos Budsit, but again, he won't be attracting too much of my cash.
Yeah, well, for a tip, then I'm going to go Tullig Raven.
Good man at a price. Dylan, what way do you see it?
Yeah, I actually like Bockos Budsit on the draw. I see what you're saying about Ballymacfin moving off. I know the night he won out with 1, he moved kind of middle, but I get the impression with him too that if the space is there, he'll use it and move out. But I think if he comes out and there's something on his outside, I think he will go up straight. But I'm not 100% sure on it yet. I do think Magico has a tough draw because I think Finn's going to be obviously on his inside. I think you're going to have Tullig Raven moving in on top of him, even Skywalker Barry. And if he did miss it like he has been doing, it's just kind of like, where's he going to go? That's the worry on him going to the corner. And I just think on the draw, I think Budsit is probably the best drawn dog in the race. He's consistent at boxes. You know what you're going to get with him. Like he's 7 runs around Shelbourne over the trip. He's 3 wins, 3 seconds, and he's dipped under 29.60 5 times. So he's pretty much rock solid. And
that's what you're here for, Dylan. That's what we want to hear. They're the stats we want to hear, Dylan. You keep them coming at us. I tend to agree with you.
To be fair, he's got that 17.15 last time, the third bench split, and he's got a 17.07 literally in the first round as well when he was allowed to dominate. So you know he can go to the third turn. You know,
I think he's a better dog in 6 than he is in 5.
I think a pair of you are both saying you're right in that when I said Magico zipped up that rails when he had that daylight, he's not going to get a lot of daylight from this draw.
Yeah, I that doesn't worry me as much as it would have last year. I'd have put a pen through Romeo Magico this time last year, but I think he's a much stronger, much mature, much more confident greyhound. A dog that's not afraid to use himself a bit more. And if he minds himself, I think he'll slip in a pitch off the second bend where he can qualify or even challenge for the victory.
Oh yeah.
Onto the second heat, where Coulivanny Hoff will be a hot favourite in Trap 5, Hoodoo Brown in 1, Callaway Masters, Crypto Punk, Vincenzo racing from 4 will be clear second choice in the market, and Savannah Hero on the outside. Hoodoo Brown, well, we know what he's probably going to do. Try and turn relatively close. Like when I say relatively close, 3rd or 4th at this stage in a race of this nature, you struggle to see him turning any closer. Callaway Masters very strong, running very well, but whether he'll be able to match the early speedsters, Crypto Punk is running out of his skin. He'll be looking to go up well up the middle. Vincenzo, well, he's just a machine. Coulivanny Hoffa, blistering early speed, hoping to get loose. And Savannah here on the outside, probably looking to find the start. And if he doesn't find it, he's going to find himself in a world of pain, I think. But I think Coulivanny Hoffa will be odds on. And I personally think he will make the most of the fact that this isn't a heat where there's blistering early speed, and I don't think anything can really live with Hoffa. And I think if he gets loose into the corner, I think it'd be very, very hard to stop. I do think Vincenzo is the danger, but the presence of Crypto Punk just would worry me if I was on Vincenzo. Other than that, I think it'll be a battle for the 3rd place finish, with maybe Hoodoo Brown getting up late to pip Crypto Punk. PL, what way do you see it?
I think you're right. I think Coulivanny Hoffa will lead all the way. And I actually think that Crypto Punk has got a nice deal of early, and I think actually now he's got his ideal box in 3. He's perfect box. So if he did come flying out the boxes, he might just give Hoffa something to think about. But I tell you what, he's going to give Vincenzo something to think
about. If Hoffa was to trap on level terms with him, it's okay. But if he was to miss at a beast, and Crypto Punk got a flyer, all of a sudden it's an issue. Yeah.
Yes, because he's got to get round Crypto Punk. But I actually think Crypto Punk is a good ally for Hoffa, and I think it's a bad one for Vincenzo, and that I actually think Vincenzo is limited in the early pace department. I think he's a good all-round dog. I think you're right. He's going forward, and he's a strong running dog. So I'm not saying he won't qualify, but I don't think he's got any chance of back running Coulivanny Hoffa. That's my opinion.
Yeah, well, it's going to be tough, especially if Hoffa gets loose and does a 29. Like he has a 29.13. Now, we're not necessarily saying he's going to repeat that, but even if he did a 29.30, you know, if he's doing 29.30, you have to do 29.20 to get around him and beat him. Crypto Punk and Vincenzo, I think it's going to be tight enough into the corner between the pair. I think Vincenzo's a pretty natural starter. Dylan, no, you're probably hanging your hat in that.
Yeah, I'm. Listen, it's not ideal. I'd like to see in different heats Vincenzo and Hoffa, but No, I'd be a little bit worried with CryptoPunk on the inside because I still think from 3, I still think he might take a step right going up. I'm hoping he doesn't, but I would have a slight worry.
Going up or just early and then straightening up?
Yeah, like he just tends to, when he comes out, I know he's been doing that in 1 and 2, and you kind of say, well, now that he's in 3, maybe he is where he wants to be. But I don't know.
Maybe that's just the foot he leads with.
Maybe so.
He does come out that right way. Yeah.
It is a slight worry. I would be. I do think Hoffa is probably the one to be with. I wouldn't be having the bet. I'm hoping it's as simple as the betting has it, and the two of them go through first and second. Yeah. And then it's a race on for third. I think Hoodoo Brown has his box. I think he proved that last week that he likes red. I think Callaway Masters could be well drawn. I'm not saying he's going to trouble Hoffa or even Vincenzo CryptoPunk on the run up, but I think you wouldn't guarantee Hoodoo Brown's going to do another 356. That was good by his standards.
No, but he doesn't have to concentrate about going anywhere because he is where he wants to be.
Yeah, he's going.
And if Callaway Masters doesn't clear him in the first few strides, he's in a world of pain.
No, well, that's it. But what I'm saying is if Hoodoo Brown goes back to missing it like he has been, and you have CryptoPunk maybe moving off, I think Callaway Masters might have a nice plenty of room up the inside.
At double figures, would you be tempted just as a saver, perhaps?
No, probably not. I'm not getting involved. I think it's one of those, you're on the 2 anti-post, you're just going to sit there and cross everything that they both qualify. But I think I would side with Hoffa and agree with the bottom. I think he's in trouble. Unless he just finds a ping break from somewhere, I can probably see him going out. But Hoffa for me.
Hoffa for the three of us. We'll move on to Heat 3 because we've limited enough time left. Born Warrior, gentlemen, I assume we all think he's going to get loose in Heat 3. It's a case of whichever gets in behind him. If Mary's Wedding repeated her best start, she may well have the early speed to lead up the top 2, and she'd be a serious threat. Kaliko Phelps is walking for boxes. He actually did a 357 last week, which by his standards is absolutely motoring. Druppy's nice one. She's just running wide, and she's not. I don't know. She just seems to be drifting around a little bit. She seems to be drawing away lengths, and she's doing 29.80s. And like for a bitch that's capable of doing a 29.30 around the place, we'd want her. You want her to run with a bit more purpose, is the way I'm going to put it. I think Born Warrior will be out front. I've tipped up Barefoot Supremo to pick him up because I think there's every chance that Barefoot Supremo will lead Droopy's Gravy into the corner, and I don't think he'd be a long way off leading Mary's Wedding into the corner either. And in a race of this nature, with Born Warrior out front, I think he'll have a lovely target to aim at. Dylan, we'll start with you this time. What way do you see it? I think it's tricky enough now, but obviously Born Warrior will be favoured.
Yeah, when I looked at it first, I wanted to be against Born Warrior. I wanted to try find something to beat him, but I'm just not convinced Supremo once won. He might edge off at the corner. I'm not sure. And for that reason, I could see a bit of trouble in the inside. I think Born Warrior will be gone. Like I said, I wanted to be against him, and the more I looked into it, I just think if he continues to do them low 340s, he's just going to be gone. And even looked at Droopy's nice one, but she does what he does. She swings wide off the last. So yeah, I wouldn't be having to play, but I think Born Warrior probably gets the job done. I would be a little bit worried about Barefoot Supremo's draw, although I'd expect him to qualify.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like Dylan's going to be doing a lot of playing on Saturday Night BL. What about yourself? What's your take in this heat?
Actually, I was the same. I didn't see masses and massive value. My take on this heat is I think Marie's Wedding is the key to the race. What's going to happen, and for 2 reasons. Marie's Wedding met Born Warrior in the second round, and with Marie's Wedding, I think you said, Ian, that Keeley hasn't had Marie's Wedding too long. Am I right in saying that?
Bomber was saying it the other night in the watch along. I watched it back again. Great entertainment. I think she has her longer. I think she has her longer than the Bomber was suggesting.
Right.
Because I was in Dundalk on July 12th, and I know certainly Dolores didn't have it at that point. Right. So I assume she went to Keeley's around then rather than the start of August.
For whatever though, I think Marie's Wedding has caught my attention because I'd seen she did the flashy 27.99 run over the 525, and then she probably might have been just a bit not fully wound up for the first round, and the jury was out a little bit, but I think she's going the right way. I really like the way, and I know you, as you say, Pro-Am and Hoffa rubbed shoulders maybe, and she surged at them, but I thought it was a taking performance. I just thought it was a gritty performance, and I actually think that she's not far behind Born Warrior in the early pace department. She's not far behind him, and again, it's like I spoke about with CryptoPunk. If you get the wallop out of 3 and the half miss flat-footed start out of 5, that's where you can get the form change around. And Marie's Wedding, I think, again, 3's a reasonable draw for her. I don't think it's a terrible draw at all. But the one scenario that I have in my mind is that Barefoot Supremo could easily jump over the back of her at the first bend and go straight on. And he's got a terrible, terrible habit of doing it. And he could cause a lot of argy-bargy on the outside. So you need Born Warrior to get away and be gone. And you probably, for that matter, Marie's Wedding, because she could be in a world of pain if he's trying to rush up. I think he's one of them dogs. He just sees dogs. He kind of just moves off his true line. If he's got clear daylight, he'd probably just sail around, you know?
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that sense with Barefoot Supreme. But he's a habit of checking across the heels, or as you say, if he saw a gap on his outside and there was a dog in front of him, he'd make a pretty pointed maneuver. Now, he often recovers very well. He carries a lot of momentum into the back straight. But as you say, if he runs into something on the outside, that momentum's gone. And Born Warrior could in turn be gone. And Mary's Wedding, I actually think that I think the run to the corner is her little bit of Achilles heel. I think she is a length shy, and that's why I thought the Barefoot Supreme had a chance of being up or inside, and she could nearly act as the buffer, which isn't a good thing for a 66-pound bitch up against a big 80-pounder.
He's coming away a lot better too, Supremo, the last 2 weeks. I think if Droopy's Gravy found a start, he'd be interesting, because he's absolutely flying to the third bend. But he's just not coming away
last week. Yeah,
he's just not coming away, and that's.
But he was one of the big eye catchers in the second round or the third round, despite being beaten 7 lengths. Like, he lost 4 or 5 of those lengths at the third bend. You know, he's beaten 7 lengths by Vincenzo, who absolutely rocketed home. But he'd flown up to the hindquarters of Vincenzo, and in essence, that was the sort of the eye-catching run that sort of nearly downgraded the run of Vincenzo, because Gravy took the ground off him that he did. Anyway, I'm going to go for Barefoot Supremo in 2 words. PL?
Born Warrior.
Born Warrior.
Yeah.
Dylan?
Yeah, look, I think Born Warrior, but if Droopy's Gravy got big enough, I think he might be just interesting if he could find a start at a big price.
If he got big enough, you are 100% having a nibble, and if he was only 10, you'd still have a nibble, because you can't let it slide now that you've even mentioned it and allowed it into your general consciousness, right? So don't give us that waffle. If he got big enough, I know well you're going to have a nibble on
tens,
it. Right? Anyway,
is a bit short.
Stick in something at 10.5 on the pink side. You'll be way in the hack. Dylan's going to back it with you, I promise. Right, we'll move on to the last of the heats, and it's another intriguing one. Explosive Boy, Crafty Kokoro, Callaway Pro-Am, Anna Bailey, Clona Blue, and Bullet from a Gun. Is it as simple as, if Callaway Pro-Am clears Explosive Boy, he wins? If he doesn't, it's going to be one hell of a tussle once again, with Explosive Boy, the inside line perhaps could make the difference, or is Crafty Kokoro going to run them down, or perhaps one of the bigger price runners, Bullet from a Gun, is likely to go up fast on the outside. Anna Bailey is showing loads of pace in pockets. The previous night went to the corner, got held up, then came home well. The other night ran a blinder in second after not getting it start. And Clona Blue, who's showing loads of pace down to third bend. PL, talk us through it.
Yeah, I think 1 and 3 should be closer together than the early price in the market. I was nearly trying to favour Explosive Boy for that very reason that I spoke to you about earlier on, about this Track 1 business, you know, at Shelbourne. And I actually think I've always liked Explosive Boy. I've always had that doubt. I said to Dylan when we were doing some work on the watch along, I just thought that he wanted to be drawn off the fence to show his best form, and now I don't think that's the case. So again, you know, 60 years of age, and I still try and learn, and I think that Explosive Boy is a massive runner in. I'm not saying anything new here, but I actually think that he should be closer to Callaway Pro-Am in the betting. And if Callaway Pro-Am gets a wallop, he could very well clear Explosive Boy, but I don't think that's a guarantee. I really don't think it's a guarantee. Crafty Kokoro shouldn't really give them any problems. And again, I think she's going to have a work cut out to back run Explosive Boy and Callaway Pro-Am. I really do. I think.
Yeah, I
think
suppose
if you said-
her connections are more interested in her back running Anna Bailey, Clona Blue, and Bullet from a Gun.
Yeah.
I think that's where their problem is. They'll just take third right now, and
That's what
I
I was
think
gonna
as
say
an
to you, yeah.
anti-post backer, I would take third as well with her.
Yeah, exactly. I that's exactly what I was going to say. That they'd take third now, and I think that's probably the most you can hope for in the makeup of this race. Now, I'm not saying she can't win because she's an absolute incredible bitch, but I do think that because of this track one scenario, I think Explosive Boys, his runs, he's 17-14s, he's 17-19s, are good yardsticks. Now, I know Pro-Am can do a 17-01, a 17-10. I know that, but he's still got to get round a very, very good dog from track one. And I just think at the prices, I would rather, from a betting point of view, if Explosive Boy is 3.5, maybe say to save the brain damage at 3.3, I'd rather bet Explosive Boy.
Okay, Dylan.
Yeah, I think he's 7 from 9 from trap one, by the way. Explosive Boy. So
Man, that's what we're here for, PL. That's what we're here for. All the stats coming at us.
He's well drawn. You wouldn't imagine Crafty Gakoro will trouble him in the run to the bend. I think Callaway Pro-Am will have to, at the very least, come away level. I think if he comes away level, I still think he'll just clear him at the bend. But I think if Explosive Boy traps anyway ahead of Callaway Pro-Am, I think he's going to give him a bit of trouble. And then, like you said, Crafty Gakoro is probably going to looking at back running the likes of Anna Bailey and Clona Blue. I think I prefer to see them the other way around. In 4 and 5, but yeah, I don't know.
It's about the inside trio, and it's really about 1 and 3 in terms of picking the likely winner. But there is a scenario where Crafty Kokoro finds herself in the Derby final with Callaway Pro-Am, Born a Survivor or Born Warrior, Kulavani Hoffa, and potentially 4 or 5 blistering early speedsters, and she has the run of the race in behind, and any traffic up front, and she's arriving with an absolute rattle. That's why they're clinging on. That's why they're clinging on.
Yeah, this is the thing with her. I think the further it goes, the more it suits her because it's getting more competitive up front. You're going to have more traffic.
I've been saying all her career. The better company, the better she is.
Yeah, you're going to have that little bit more trouble up front. You have dogs going to the third bend there all around the low 17s and 17-10s, and she's tipping away behind them. There's a bit of trouble. So, look, she's going to find a way to qualify, I think, anyway. But I do agree with PL. I think Explosive Boy is a big chance here. I think it's what happens out of traps, I think, will decide this one.
Yeah, but I disagree with you, Dylan, though.
Go ahead.
I disagree. I disagree with Dylan that if Explosive Boy and Callaway Pro-Am break level, you're saying that Pro-Am will lead him, and I don't think he will. I think he's going to have to outstart him by a half a length to make sure he gets past him. And that's what I'm saying about this advantage of the insider. Now you're reeling off these stats with Explosive Boy in track one. It makes me even more confident that
a few of those trap ones were last year. Explosive Boy was a different greyhound, though, let it be said. I personally believe off a level start, Callaway Pro-Am goes around in front because Tullig Raven outpaced him into the bend last week. Just a fraction. But I think Callaway Pro-Am's a length faster than Tullig Raven.
From the 1 and the 2 draw, that's what I'm trying to say to you. It just seems to me, I've noticed so much in analysing these races that track one, and he is a perfect example. He is a quality dog, Explosive Boy. Now, I'm not saying Callaway Pro-Am isn't, because he is, but I'm saying on draws, and draws win races sometimes, I think he has got to outstart Explosive Boy.
Yeah. Listen, it's game of opinions. I just think Pro-Am is a 4 to 5 chance all day and all night, and I'll stick by that one. And if he goes a little bit of 2.2 on Saturday night, you can be absolutely sure I'll be probably doing a little bit more than nibbling, like I would be after a few pints when I go home. Listen, gentlemen, a pleasure as always. Give me a winner in one word, Dylan.
Outright. Oh, Vincenzo.
Oh, PL.
Hoffa.
Yeah, I'm with you. Hoffa.
By the way,
for Hoffa, 1 for Vincenzo. Go ahead.
The winner of the Michael Fortune Memorial Derby Plate, I fancy Bobsleigh Dream.
She's got a great draw on Saturday night in Trap 1. Great draw. 3 will be edging in her the other Kobe, but she should be more than able to sort of bustle her way around the corner. She's so strong. I think she's actually flying at present. She was so unlucky to go out in the Derby the way she did. She got no run, and she was in against slowish dogs, where again, if she'd been against faster dogs, she'd probably have had a better chance of qualifying. But anyway, that's that. Gentlemen, a pleasure as always. Don't forget, folks, that sign-up offer once again. Bet £30. Your first free bet, beg your pardon, get £30 back as a free bet if your first bet is a loser with Matchbooks. And with Matchbook, the bonus code there is Insights30. That's it from us this afternoon on this Matchbook Betting Exchange Greyhound Derby podcast. Best of luck to everyone with the dog remaining in the Boyle Sports Irish Greyhound Derby. There are 24 of them. It's a dream come true. Be nice to be in the last 12 and perhaps the last 6. We'll be back in a week's time, hopefully slapping ourselves in the back and telling PL that we were right about Callaway Pro-Am. Anyway, that's it for today. My thanks once again to the assassin and to the master. Gentlemen, pleasure as always. Best luck over the weekend.
Take care.